And
Okay, here is what I want to do. First, let me do a quick introduction, but you shouldn't care about me, so I'm not going to worry about it. I teach at Halt, primarily on its San Francisco campus, because before joining academia, I spent about 15 or 20 years building platform startups in Silicon Valley. I also teach at Harvard University, but the true credit for this presentation and for this idea goes to Halt's AI Society. These are a bunch of students who formed this group in order to educate other students about AI. And last year, when I was trying to teach them a class about AI, they knew so much more than I did that I said to them, hey, would you just teach this class? Like, here we go. So not only did they do that, but then we took the show on the road and we recently did a workshop at the Academy of Management in Chicago. And I was merely the ringleader. They were the people who composed and delivered this. And it was so popular that they've gotten something like 10 invitations to deliver the same workshop at universities all over the world. So I have to credit them. And if you want them to do this, send me a note and I will pass it along to them. They're incredibly nice young men. But I'm going to add a different piece to this today. So the topic today, the second topic today is how should we build customized GPTs? So this is an instruction manual, and it is for our students, it's for us as teachers, it's for us as researchers, and then I'm especially hoping that Tommaso and Daniel are paying attention because I think there should be a Symplatform GPT that includes all of the papers that you have presented at the Symplatform conferences with permission, because that would be an incredible tool for your movement. But first, we need to talk about, first of all, in general, what is a custom GPT, and then why does this relate to platforms? So that's my first task. To do that task, we first need to recognize that normal ChatGPT is like a Swiss Army knife. I figured this analogy would particularly appeal to you Europeans because the rest of the world does indeed call it a Swiss Army knife, even those that are not made for or by the Swiss Army. It can do a little bit of everything because it's underpinned by a large language model. And by large, we're saying as much content as it can find, large language model. In contrast, a custom GPT is like a scalpel. It's very precise. It's much narrower. It can only do a few things, but those few things that it can do incredibly well because it is undergirded by a small language model. And what I want to do today is show you how to build one and exactly where that small language model comes from. You can pick what goes in the small language model. So let me tie this to platforms. This is the platform canvas. This is the tool I created in order to teach platforms to students. It's available to Platform Canvas for free. You can grab it. You can grab slides. There's a case, all this stuff. This was also, I just noticed that there's a theme here. This was an idea I had. I asked a couple students if they could do a better job than I did, which is not that hard because I'm not that smart of a guy. And not only did they do it, but we published it in a paper, went to USASB with it, where it won the best conceptual paper. The theme here is that I am an incredibly lazy academic. And if I have students who are smarter and better than I can, I let them run and they do a better job than I can. But the point of this slide is that whereas AI in most other circumstances is a productivity booster, or otherwise known as a cost reducer, it brings costs down. It typically doesn't change the product itself, or more importantly, it doesn't by itself generate revenues. It will lower costs and therefore increase profits, but it won't generate revenues. There is an exception to this. Any business model that is using the network effect platforms that can use AI in order to improve the number of consummated transactions will automatically, via the network effect, create more value for the platform. So AI in platforms is a revenue generator. This is why AI and platforms is going to be such a spectacular mix. I just gave you the logic. Let me give you a little bit of evidence. Look at all of the companies right now who are leading the way for large language models. They're all platforms. Why do you think that is? I think first they recognize that there is revenue from AI services. Secondly, they recognize that their own platforms will become better, more complete, and they'll grab the network effect in order to generate more revenue. And thirdly, platforms have an enormous amount of data because of the interactions between these outside producers and consumers. And that data can inform their large language models with differentiation from between other platforms. So that's my pitch for why AI and platforms make what I would, with intentional sincerity, not hyperbole, declare as the best and perhaps unbeatable business model in the world for the foreseeable future. How's that for being an optimistic American? All right, so that's the first reason that we want to talk about customized GPTs, because it's the customized GPTs that platforms are going to use to improve that facilitation. The second reason is a little bit more nuanced, and let me explain this chart to you. This chart shows on the vertical axis how much does ChatGPT think like you. And this is by country, so citizens in a country. It's obviously doing averages of people in a country. And then the horizontal axis is how close is your country culturally to the United States. So the United States here is considered 0. There are a couple of interesting figments to this. The first figment is that for some reason, people from New Zealand are getting more benefit. They think more like ChatGPT than Americans do, even though OpenAI is based in Silicon Valley, mostly using coders from the United States. I have no idea how to explain that. But I think that's hilarious that New Zealanders have a leg up in using AI than anybody else. But it's the bottom right that concerns me. Let's look at Pakistan. Pakistan is getting about a 30% decrease in the effectiveness of ChatGPT for people in Pakistan as compared to people in the United States. That's a problem for people in Pakistan for lots of reasons, perhaps the most important of which is that is a country that could absolutely make a huge economic leap if only their AI were tuned to them. The answer is not for them to learn how to use ChatGPT and to change their culture. Not going to happen. The answer instead is, how does somebody with concerns about Pakistan create a small language model that adjusts itself to Pakistan's culture so that this new AI is more responsive to the culture and therefore to the queries of people from Pakistan? This is not just an issue of translating from Urdu to English. That's not the problem. The problem is ChatGPT thinks culturally like an American, or in this case, like a New Zealander. It doesn't think like somebody from Pakistan. So we need to take the Pakistani newspapers and Pakistani writings and put them into a small language model to have an AI that is tuned for Pakistan. So those are the two reasons that I think that's the why. That's the why we should have, in general, in the macro view, why we should have customized GPT. Let me get to the micro for the why. There are 3 different reasons for us to build a customized GPT. I'm going to show you how to build one for students. I also have, and I'll show you the link in a little bit. I put all of this in a link. It's for the AOM class, AOM workshop, but it's all the same content. I will, with some added features for today, because I wouldn't want to let my Italian friends down. I want to talk about how you build one for students in your class as you're teaching, or more importantly, how you teach your students to build a customized GPT. And then we have another version that's for teachers, where you put in the rubrics and you can literally ask GPT to grade assignments. Or if you want, you can give this tool to students so they can allow GPT to self-grade their assignments and therefore presumably get better at doing their assignments before they hand it into you, so they can polish their work. And the third is going to be for authors like me or like Tommaso and Daniel for Symplatform. All right. What I did also here was to recognize that while I'm online in the Rocky Mountains, it's entirely possible that I should not be using my internet for both WebEx and a live demonstration. So I did screenshots of all of this just to make sure. I've been in tech long enough to be hunted by tech demons. Don't tempt fate. So here's what ChatGPT 4.0 looks like. You've all seen this. You then go to their different versions, have different ways to get here, but then you go to My GPTs or Explore GPTs in the left-hand model. And the very first one says, create a GPT. That's what you're going to hit. It will open up a window. The window automatically opens up. By the way, Tommaso, I can see your face. Can you see my cursor on the screen? Okay, it'll automatically open in the create mode. The create mode is just fine. It's like a wizard that will ask you the questions in order to fill out this form. The problem with create mode is that it's too generic and it's interpreting your answers. So I like to manually create custom GPTs. So instead of the create mode, hit the configure mode. And that's just saying, don't ask me questions. I'm going to fill this stuff in. All right. So what we did was to create a student GPT for a course at Harvard on leadership and accountability. Now, just to be clear, we got all of the material that we used for this GPT from public sources. So we're not violating any of Harvard's copyrights. I don't want to get in trouble with my bosses for that. So we have the name, we have a description. None of that really matters. That's not technically important. It matters for the search engine inside of ChatGPT's store, but otherwise has no functional importance to how the GPT operates. All right, here is the key. We're about to fill in the instructions. What do we want the GPT to do? And there are 6 different things that you need to ask, or you need to tell the GPT to do. The first is identity. What do you want it to assume? Do you want it to act like a teacher? Do you want it to act like a peer? Do you want it to act like an idiot? And therefore, it's intentionally giving you half-baked answers in order to test your knowledge? What's the context? I'm going to give you an example of all of this. What's the context that it's in? Are you in a class? Are you a symposium? Are you a designer or a creator? You can even give it an example. If somebody asks this question, here's the answer that I'd like you to provide, and the GPT will use that as a template. You can give it constraints and formats, and then finally you can give it a tone. You can say you want it to be formal and precise, you want it to be informal and creative. There are lots of different options for how you do it. What we did for this particular GPT, for the identity, we said you're the professor of this course. That's pretty obvious. For the context, we gave it what the students are supposed to learn. We literally inserted the learning objectives for the course. That is indeed the context. For the task, because this is a student helper, and we don't want this to be writing its papers, their papers for them. This is a student helper. This is to challenge their knowledge and to answer some questions. It's not to write essays. We gave it an example here that was just a sample. We gave it the format, and what we really said was that we want it to focus on what we've uploaded. I'll show you how to do that in a second. And then we explicitly said, do not write the whole assignment. Only provide answers to specific questions. Now, let's be clear, students are smart. They're smarter than we are with ChatGPT. They could probably get around this and cajole the GPT to write their assignment. But in my opinion, this is my own philosophy, I don't want them to stop using tools that are freely available and will be available for their work life when they graduate. So I'm not going to stop them. Instead, I want to find different ways to assure that they have learned the material. And maybe the answer here is I'll ask them a question in class saying, here's what you wrote. Give me the next paragraph without looking at your computer. Then we have the tone. Professionally, you're an academic. We even referred to the tone in one of the papers that we're going to upload as the tone it should emulate. The disclaimer is ours. This is, you don't put the disclaimer in the instructions. This is me to you saying we used everything that's public. We also are doing this workshop for educational purposes. So we do not suggest that we own any of this or that we intend to publish this GPT. All right, where do you put all that stuff? When you look at the screen, there's a box that says instructions. You literally paste it right here. You paste it right there. That's it. That's the key part. That's one of two key parts. All right, next thing. You can give it conversation starters. This is, again, doesn't change how it functions, but this is where you finally have an opportunity to change the user interface to make it more friendly. So, and you can do up to 3, I think you can do more than that even, but this is where you can start to give the users some guidance on what prompts they should consider. So prompt engineering has become a big field. You're giving this your students some shortcuts so that they don't have to be wizards at prompt engineering. You're giving them some tips right off the bat. The other reason to do conversation starters like this is because if you put things in there like, what are the exercises for module number 1? Oh, I have a typo in there. For module number 1, you're also telling students, once you show them that the student helper is available, that they have no excuse for forgetting the exercises of module number 1. In other words, all they have to do is hit that button and it automatically makes that button the prompt and answers that question. So this is sort of a check on students. The second important step is for you to upload material as knowledge. And I'll show you where that goes in a second. But before we do that, I want to talk about it on a higher level. So ChatGPT 4.0 is a multimedia, which means that you can do Word, PDF. I have, and I'll show you in a second, created my own GPT called Platform Pioneer. I've uploaded the platform canvas as an image. I've uploaded all of my lecture slides. I've uploaded podcasts to it. I've uploaded videos to it. The only thing it cannot do yet, you can't give it a link to a YouTube video. So for that, you have to use some software to pull down the YouTube video and upload it. I'm going to talk about the ethics of that in a second. Or if you have a video of you speaking, for example, if Daniel gives me the video of this session, I could snip it to my portion and upload this, and that would be fine. Here's why I'm also doing a customized GPT for my own research. This is part 3 of this sequence, but I'm going to get there now. Because I have written all of the things that I'm putting into the knowledge base, and therefore, in my opinion, that gives me, if not legal copyright, at least ethical foundations. Why doesn't it give me legal copyright? Because when I have something published in a journal, legally the journal owns the copyright. I'm still uploading that to my GPT. The reason that I'm not that worried about it is that my GPT will not actually tell you where, it won't give you a direct quote, and it won't tell you the source that it came from. Perplexity, which is a different AI engine, does do this. This customized GPT doesn't. So in other words, it's the same as if you asked me a question and I referenced my article in my head, but I didn't actually give you a quote from the article. So I don't think that there's a copyright violation. There is an ethics violation. For example, my favorite book on platforms is written by a friend of Symplatform called Platform Revolution. Absolutely my favorite book. Love it. And there are PDFs of it that are unprotected, not just Amazon Kindle versions, but there are PDFs floating around. I will not upload that to my knowledge in my customized GPT because in my opinion, that's unethical. I didn't write that. I didn't contribute to it. I don't have permission to do that. So even though it's technically feasible and it would make the GPT better, to me, that's crossing a line that I'm not willing to cross. All right. So where do you upload this stuff? Right at the bottom here, it says, what knowledge do you want? ChatGPT is adding more and more tokens that you can upload. So right now it's about the equivalent of 900 pages of PDF. So it's a fair amount of content you can upload. Obviously, if you're going to upload a live video, that cuts down on the number of other things you can upload. But you can put a substantial amount of material up there. That's a lot. I'm assuming that for all of the Symplatform papers that have been submitted and accepted, that is way less than 900 already. All right, next step. You have to make a critical decision. And this is around, and I'll show you where this is in the GPT. Do you want people who are using your custom GPT, when they ask a question, to only receive an answer from the material you uploaded? And for example, if they ask a question saying to Platform Pioneer or to this Harvard leadership course, how do you make good lasagna? None of the documents have that in it. We did not mention that, and I'm assuming the Harvard course didn't do it. I have not put that in any of my research. No offense to Tommaso and Daniel, but lasagna is not on my mind that often. I know that for you, you can't stop thinking about it. But so if you ask that question to a custom GPT and you have said that the GPT may only reference what you uploaded, it would come back saying, I have no idea what you're talking about. I don't know what lasagna is, and I sure as heck don't know how to make one. There is a checkbox in a custom GPT which says, start with my knowledge, but if my knowledge doesn't give enough of an answer, you may go to the web. Here's the so the good news is that somebody will ask a question like, how do you make lasagna? And it will have an answer. It will start with my stuff, no answer, no answer, no answer. It'll go to open the large language model, tons and tons of answers. It'll give you an answer. The bad news about this stuff is that if you're intentionally creating a GPT that you want to be scalpel-like, you want it to be really good at one thing, you don't want to open that hole to the internet. Because if somebody's asking a question about disintermediation of platforms, I have written about this stuff, and I think I've written cogently and accurately and precisely. If you open the hole to the internet and Kim Kardashian at any point said something about disintermediation, even if it was just in a Trivial Pursuit game or pronounce this word, it's going to bring in Kim Kardashian. And at the risk of offending Kim Kardashian, she does not know what platform disintermediation is. So I don't want stuff from People magazine inside my customized GPT. There's really no way, if this is a binary switch, you either check it or you don't. There's no way for you to say, I only want good content to flow in through that back door to the internet. So you have to make this decision. What we did for this Harvard Leadership and Accountability Student Helper GPT You can see down here in the bottom left-hand corner, we turned it off. We said we intentionally want students only to reference the material that we've uploaded from the course. We don't want it going out to the internet. For my platform Pioneer, because I think, as I've always already mentioned, I'm not that smart, I did indeed keep that box checked. So if you ask a question and I can't answer it, or I haven't answered it in what I've uploaded, it'll go out to the internet. Welcome to the Kardashians. All right. So the last, less important decision is, how do you want to distribute it? This is important for how we're going to use these things. It'll ask you, do you want to have this link, this available only to you? In other words, your personal assistant. You wanted anybody with the link, so in other words, your students, or do you want to make it public in the GPT store? When I'm building a GPT for my students, it's option number 2, anybody with a link. When I have my own GPT for grading and things like that, then it's only for me. But Platform Pioneer is available in the store, and I hope I've cajoled them already. Symplatform's Customized GPT will be coming to the OpenAI ChatGPT store in the near future. They'll pick option 3, available to anybody. Here's what that particular slide looks like. Only me, anyone with the link, or the GPT store. Pretty simple. Now let me give you an example of output from this Harvard Leadership and Accountability Student Helper. So what are the exercises in Module 1? It gives them. Boom, here we go. This was in the material. It happens to be buried in the material, so this highlights it, but this is right in the material. Let's give it a more complex answer. Explain some core concepts to me. This is exactly about, and this is particularly on reflective leadership. This is exactly why for this GPT, we did not want it to open up to the web, because reflective leadership has hundreds of different definitions and details and nuances from thousands of academic papers. The professors of this course presumably want students to understand the definition that they're giving to the students. So this is why this answer is pulled only from the knowledge that these professors have already uploaded. And then you can even ask, how'd you come up with them? And it will answer. That's the fundamental for building a student-focused GPT. Let me take an extra step. How am I doing on time? Pretty good. Do an extra step. Here is a professor assistant. And here is the difference in the formatting constraints. So the right-hand slide here, we put the entire grading schema into the format and constraints. Here is the rubric that we used. Here is what good and bad get you. Here are the grades that you can get. I'm going to go to the next page. Here is what satisfactory looks like. Here's what needs improvement looks like. Here is what clarity and structure look like. So you can put all of this into your own GPT. So we created a student sample, we uploaded it. This is now the user interface. You hit publish on this thing. You upload a student sample. Please grade this assignment for me, and it does. It gives you the points per category with the strengths and areas of improvement. It gives you a summary of it. It gives you, and they can add up the points to see what their grade would be. This is a pretty impressive tool. Now, let me return to the conversation we were having before. How should you use this? I don't really have any judgment, but let me highlight the 2 different options. One is you could keep this for yourself, and this could help with your grading. My worry is that all GPTs are biased. Even the stuff you uploaded is biased. So if a student was extra creative, the GPT isn't going to recognize that creativity. If anything, it's going to penalize that creativity, and the scores will go down even if the answers are nuanced but in a slightly different way. So I recommend that you do not use this for grading. It might be an input or the first step for your grading, but then you need to go back and read the full initial assignment to make sure that they didn't actually do something that was unexpected but awesome. Another way to use this is to give this to students and say flat out, test, don't give me a B paper. I don't want it. Give me an A paper. And the way I'll get you to an A paper is here is a tool that will help you improve. Now, there is a problem with this for any of the administrators. If there's any administrators on the call, if you offer this tool to students, your grade distribution is going to go way up. You're going to have a bunch of A's and then presumably a bunch of D's from people who are too lazy to even do this. Those A's can make administrators crazy. My response to administrators, and indeed I've done this at Harvard, my response to administrators is, here's what I look at the assignment, pretty tough assignment. Look at the work product, pretty good work product. And then I say, I use some tips and tricks, teaching and other things to help them take a hard question and give me a great answer. Why shouldn't they all get A's? And typically Harvard, that's the point when the Harvard administrators say, yeah, okay, you're right. I cave. All right, let me show you then part 3. Part 3 is how can you do this for your own research? If you go to explore GPTs within ChatGPT and you type in either TEDLAD or Platform Pioneer, you will get my GPT. Here is a few of the prompts that I put in. It's had several conversations. I don't know. I didn't even know that people were rating it. That's kind of nice. You'll note that it'll tell you right on the start page before you start to chat that I have indeed down here checked the box that allows web browsing. In other words, you know up front when you're about to use a custom GPT, whether it's restricting you to the knowledge it uploaded or whether it's allowing the Kardashians in. And then here is an example. I already showed you the platform canvas earlier. You'll remember that? I asked it, diagram Amazon and a platform canvas, and it does it. It provides all of it according to not just the diagram, but the academic paper that I uploaded. So this is a pretty cool tool. I can then even say, because I've written papers on disintermediation, tell me about disintermediation for this particular topic. The way that I use this in class is that I have teams of students building new platform ventures. And after I've gone through lots of theories, let's call it around session 4 or 5, I'll say, okay, I want you and your team to spend half an hour asking questions, upload your venture idea, and then ask questions of Platform Pioneer to say specifically for this venture, what's the threat and the mitigating possibilities for disintermediation? They've already gotten the theory from me. They've gotten examples from me. This means that I am not in 10 team rooms at the same time, me physically, but intellectually I am, because they're asking me in quotations, questions, and they're getting specific answers to their specific work around disintermediation based on everything I already know. So that gets us to here. Oh no, hold on. I want to go back. There is, where is it? I'm going to stop sharing. There is only one other thing that I wanted to do, and I'll put it in the chat if I can find it. In the chat, I am putting aom.tedlad.com. If you type that into a browser, do not type www in front of it. If you type that into a browser, it will take you to a Google folder. The Google folder contains lots of this deck. It doesn't contain the front material. Lots of this deck, the instructions, the resources that we use for Harvard to do it. And as an extra bonus, we put in there another GPT. I think we called it Teacher Wingman. And Teacher Wingman creates, you upload the knowledge that you want and the learning objectives, and you say, please create a syllabus for me. And it creates a syllabus from what you've uploaded. No Kardashians involved. I have gone to ChatGPT and said, please create a syllabus for an economics course. And it does. And it's a pretty good syllabus, but it's generic. It's the same syllabus that any other microeconomics instructor would upload. If I put the content from the class into a customized GPT and say, build a syllabus, it will build a syllabus based on what I want to teach. So it's customized to me. That's the Teacher Wingman that we built for you that you can create if you'd like. Tommaso and Daniel, I'm going to stop there to see if there are any questions. And the question I most anticipate, but I'm going to wait for somebody to ask it, is, aren't you undermining copyright and intellectual property protection? But I'm going to wait to see if anybody actually wants to ask that question.
So let's see if we've got somebody, brave enough. Simon.
Hi. No, I will not ask a question about legal issues. And
thank you.
First, I was trying to access the website. I see that the website is not available. I don't know, is there something? There's no missing letters in the address or something. Please check.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the Google Drive right now. I'm going to grab the folder. I'm going to get the actual exact link.
Side remark. I have a different question because I like to know what's going on under the hood. Yes, this kind of like, and maybe you can give me some insights about that. If we are creating this own GPT, what are we actually doing? Are we just hiring the general language model and tell him, let's say, to play a role, a specific role, like an actor? Yes, hiring an actor, and let's pretend you are someone and use those materials to behave in a specific way? Or are we actually somehow adjusting, I don't know, changing and creating a subversion of this language model? This is my question.
So it's not an actor who is parroting you, right? It's much more complex and deeper than that. So it's not just taking you and replicating it so that they can talk to you 24/7, even when you're asleep. The reason it's not is because AI is a probabilistic prediction engine. So it is taking your ideas and it may be creating an answer that recombines your ideas in a slightly different way. It's still adhering to your principles, but it may be taking, for example, the platform canvas and disintermediation, tying them together in a way that I have never tied them together because I didn't think about it, but it can think about it because it has the knowledge and it's making these predictive jumps. Now, so that's the good news, is in some ways it's better than you because it can create these connections that your synapses haven't created yet. The bad news is that some of those connections may not be appropriate or accurate. So that's the cost of creativity, right? But it is not a parrot of you. Does that answer the question? I know that answers, you gave me two options and I understood option A. I didn't really understand option B, so I hoped with a creative example and the use of the funny word parrot over and over again, I would distract you away from what option B was.
I'm not, I know how those models work, and I'm not one of those guys who are telling you that this is just a parrot. No. It wasn't my point. My point was exactly if you know what is the kind of technical background behind those personal GPTs. Yes. So the second option was is that let's say subversion or a new adjustment to this basic language model. So we are just cloning that and then making some adjustment and now I have my own small language model. or I'm just hiring the general, the bigger language model to
Oh.
behave in a specific way.
No. You are, so AI is two different things. One is the data, the second is the predictive engine. You're hiring the predictive engine, but you're not touching the ChatGPT large language model. So you're hiring the predictive engine, which is a pretty good predictive engine. What it's doing then is if it sees the word disintermediation, the student writes the word, what's the problem with disintermediation in this venture idea? It will say, here is the problem with disintermediation. And then it starts to say, okay, if I've written the word disintermediation and I look through the 10 articles that Ted uploaded, what probabilistically is the next word that I should put in the sentence? And then it puts a word. Okay, now what's the next word after that it should put in the sentence? So you're only hiring the predictive engine, you're not hiring the data. It's making the predictions for what the next word should be only on my knowledge base, not on any of its large language models. No Kardashians. And thank you, by the way, for using the word parrot.
We like Kardashians.
Really? You're welcome to them. If I were king of the U.S., I would export them to you. You can have them.
All of them.
Is it a guilty pleasure?
Here's the deal. No returns.
Okay, so but they must be all. Now, because I got a couple of things that I would like to share with you, but I would like to leave the stage to anybody else before. So is there anybody else who would like to ask a question?
Timo has a question. Nice to see you again, Timo, 2 days in a row.
Thank you. Thanks for your talk. I mean, I like the analogy to the scalpel. It really shows how this specialized GPT works. However, I have another comment, concerning your thought on the influence of artificial intelligence on platforms. Look, my point is following. If we met 10 years ago, then we would say that platforms offer market efficiency, that they are a very powerful tool for matchmaking and so on, because the algorithm and so on, and this is how marketplaces work. And right now we are something like 2 years after ChatGPT became popular, and now you say that artificial intelligence will change platforms, that will make more powerful or something like this. And yesterday I saw something opposite, in the foreseeable future, 1 or 2 years. In my view, artificial intelligence will not change the platform because the platforms itself are already efficient markets. And I would like to get to know your opinion in which way artificial intelligence will change the business model of platforms. Thank you.
Okay. So I have two answers. One is perhaps pedestrian, but directly answering your question. And then another one is more nuanced and more open to conversation and controversy. The simple answer is you're absolutely right. AI will improve marketplace efficiency, but I dispute your premise that platforms are already efficient. And the way I dispute this premise is pretty simple. If you go to Amazon and type in any product you want, you have 50 different possibilities, excuse me, and 25 of them don't work for you. That's not an efficient market. If it were truly efficient, and if we're using efficiency as though it's a binary, right, between inefficient and efficient. If it were truly efficient, it would only show you the 25 that are absolutely what you're thinking. AI can start to do that because it can start to look at my purchase history. It can go out to the internet and say, okay, I can see the research this guy has done. I can look at his LinkedIn profile. I can figure out where he lives. It can get super creepy. But as a result, the 25 that it's going to offer me in Amazon will be much more accurate for what I want. That gets us farther towards market efficiency. So to the extent that the 25 other less important items that I see on Amazon are a problem with coordination cost, right? It hasn't solved coordination costs entirely. AI can move the ball forward pretty quickly in order to make this market even more efficient. To me, Timo, what's even more important though is you're looking at existing platforms that are already big, right? Amazon already has lots of this data and this knowledge. Take a platform that doesn't exist yet, right? Renting tractor equipment in Wyoming. Good platform, interesting idea, no background, no data whatsoever. How can they make an efficient market when they don't know exactly what people need? This is where you could start to use AI saying, I want you to, once you know who the buyer and the seller are, go out and figure out what can the tractor do. Don't make the person who wants to rent the tractor upload all the material. What can the tractor do? And then for the buyer, figure out, go to agricultural databases, what exactly are they growing, when's their harvest season, put all of this together with outside information and then make the match. That's the way that AI can make a new marketplace more efficient almost instantly without having to wait for the platform to collect data. So this accelerates its utility, which then accelerates the network effect and increases the value and increases data so that the AI engine will get better and better. However, Timo, here's the more nuanced answer to this. And we've seen it from the announcement from both Perplexity and then more recently from OpenAI. We go to Amazon, we type in something, it gives us a list of products that would fit that need and we pick. Search GPT or Perplexity has said it wants to put AI empowered ads and basically sort of product placement into its AI engine. It will find the product that we want and say, here is the product. In other words, there's no longer a marketplace. There's a marketplace underneath, but the user interface now is only the AI engine. This is why I think Google is so worried about AI and trying to compete so fiercely. Its platform of connecting web visitors with content creators is about to go away. We don't need, they're AdWords, right? This is the best revenue generating engine that we've ever seen. It's printing so much money that you Europeans are incredibly angry with Google. And recently us Americans also got angry with Google. I don't particularly, but that's monopolistic policy is a totally different thing. But everybody's angry at Google right now because they said, boy, you do this too well. You're printing money too fast with your promoted search topics because your search algorithm is so good. Yeah, but what if we have an AI where we ask it, here's the product I need, find it and buy it for me. And if we trust the AI enough, if it's good enough to understand who I am and what I need, I don't need the marketplace anymore because I have an AI agent that will go to the marketplaces and find it for me. Marketplaces will still exist, but their power, including their profit margins, will drop. So they still will be coordinating and solving a coordination problem, but they might not be nearly as lucrative as they are today. That's my more controversial answer for you, Timo.
Okay, thank you very much. Actually, I agree with another bot, that bots will talk to other bots and in the way a transaction will be made. I completely agree that that can be another stage. However, I would like to point that if we move back to the year 2000, it was already promised there. Like with the advent of the internet, it was promised that bots will talk to bot. And if you went to like blockchain ghetto, like the blockchain guys, then they would say something similar. They were talking like for a few years that thanks to blockchain, there will be no intermediary because like you will buy
you have
directly.
You have a smart contract inside of a DAO. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. So this promise has already been made a few times, and yeah, that can change as long as it's implemented in the right way. Thank you.
So Timo, you're reminding me. So I was one of the people in 2000 on stage. I worked for a company called Palm, the Palm Pilot, and I was the company spokesman during our IPO. So I was one of the people on stage saying, pretty soon you're just going to talk to this thing and you're going to say, buy me a sandwich, and we'll know enough about you and buy a sandwich. So in other words, I was one of these people making these ridiculous predictions that didn't come true until now. I am also I was guilty 20 years ago. I'm writing a paper right now. I've written it a few times and it's not that good. Oh, maybe I ought to get Daniel and Tommaso to help me write this paper. Oh, that's the answer. Um, about which technology when. So if you're building a platform, should you use Web 2 centralized databases or should you use Web 3 decentralized blockchain smart contracts? And it's not just about the technology, it also has to do with the ethic and the culture and the decision-making speed. Like there are lots of different things that come into choosing whether you do a Web 2 or a Web 3 platform. So far in this work, Timo, I have yet to find a Web 3 example that wouldn't be more efficient using Web 2. That's yeah. So in other words, the promises that we're hearing from blockchain, and I started writing this paper saying blockchain platforms were going to beat Web 2 platforms until I had a reviewer who said, pardon my French here, bullshit. And I was like, oh, I got to rewrite this thing. You're right. There are instances where it's not going to happen. So Daniel and Tommaso, that's something coming to your inbox in the near future.
So thank you for this. I think we've got probably very few minutes. So I don't know if anybody has got something to add. Otherwise, I can't do that. But let's see if we got anybody else. Not really, it seems. Okay. So a couple of things.
I'm also fine, Tommaso, with just giving one last conclusion and expression of gratitude and then letting everybody get on their way. Would you like me to do that?
But there is one thing that I would like to tell you anyway.
Okay.
So
Dimmi.
not because I need to take the time. I really got something to tell you.
Okay.
Because I mean, your presentation was great, and actually we did many of the things that you said. So we created a ChatGPT to correct the exams. We created a ChatGPT to create exams, and many other things. And I completely agree with what you said. Don't trust them. We had a lot of problems. I must say that the average result is very good. So the one for correcting. So we corrected every single exam twice. So I did it personally, plus or before I asked the engine to do it. And I would say that in 90% of the cases, the mark was absolutely the same. And when it was not the same, the difference was really, marginal. So, and I cannot really say that in some cases it was better than me, because probably I did my mistakes as well, but nobody checked on those. But there is one thing that I would like to add. Because in all the cases, super interesting cases that you presented, in a certain way, you got this idea of my GPT-3 engine doing the work for me. So it's correcting the exams for me, it's answering to the students for me. So you use this, very powerful metaphor. So I can go to sleep, and somebody is answering for me right away, like if I were there. So it's like, it's a way of looking at it. You do the work for me. Okay, so and I create you and I make you very, very sharp to do the work in a perfect way for me. There is an interesting other option that is emerging, not by us, by this. They actually work. They are practitioners, and they created something called Management GPT, in which basically. They also wrote an article about this, and they are writing a lot of things. They are Thinkers 50 and stuff like that. And
as are you.
What?
As are you.
No, we are radars.
Radar is good. Radar is good. That's still Thinker. It still says Thinkers 50 radar. That's still Thinkers 50.
Yeah, so it's the second layer. But no, what they say actually is super interesting, because they say, what if we completely revert the mechanism? Why don't we imagine that the engine is making me work like a sort of sparring partner? So I got an idea and I discuss it with you. And so they made a lot of examples, and actually we tried that in a course. It didn't work very well, but it worked. And I was double checking just before the session. There is now a GPT by IKEA, the furniture company.
Yep.
So there is my GPT by IKEA, and basically you ask something, and instead of having an answer, you got many more questions. So I was typing something like, I would like to change, renovate the room for my 11 years old daughter. Oh, nice. So what does she like? How much you want to spend? What kind of functions is she's going to do in the room? Is she's going to study in it, also sleeping in it? So actually, and the more you answer, the more they're asking questions. So in a certain way, they are helping you thinking and not giving an answer. So this is just, my 5 cents. There might be another paradigm somewhere in which it is not the machine working for me, it is the machine making me work. So I'm still the one.
So the exercise, first of all, is one of the questions that IKEA asked you is, how much do you like your 11-year-old daughter?
No.
It should have asked that, because it could have said, like, how soon are you going to kick her out of the house? Or do you think maybe if you really like the daughter, you should be giving her your master bedroom, and you and your spouse should move into the tiny little room? That would be a good chatbot to really explore relationship dynamics. What I do in class is I give my students an example. You want to create a new platform in Nairobi, Kenya, that will match spare truck capacity to farmers out in rural areas. In order to get there, I'm doing a whole bunch of explosions behind me, it turns out, for WebEx, that will get farmer produce to market more efficiently. Show me the platform canvas, show me how this would work. It gives you the answer. I then say, okay, here's the next prompt I want you to ask it. What are the top 10 problems that farmers experience? And transportation doesn't come up.
Yeah.
And then I say, what are the top 10 ways that truckers could use spare capacity? And produce doesn't come up. So we can actually, and I love doing it, because I say, okay, I'm going to first start you thinking down this platform path, and they're all excited. This is a really good idea. Here's how we can make it better. Okay, then ask these other questions. Oh, shoot, there are other better ideas. I'm solving the wrong problem.
Yeah.
So we as professors can teach students that our customized GPTs are narrowing we're converging too soon, and we need to diverge first before we converge.
Yeah.
And that's one of the problems with customized GPTs. They converge.
Very fast. So our time is over.
Can I do my last closing before I leave?
Our time is over, but I still owe you the time for that.
My closing is so obviously you can tell, because I'm fired up. I love talking about this, and I love having people think about platforms, GPTs, the collision between AI and platforms. I had such a great time for the last hour that I am normally an introvert, which is why I live on the top of the mountain in the middle of nowhere. But thank you very much for giving me the opportunity. But more importantly, Tommaso and Daniel, you have been working very hard to create a community of scholars around platforms in Europe. And especially tomorrow at LECO, you are going to solidify this community in perhaps one of the most beautiful places in the world. So I just wanted to acknowledge that it's not just the 2 hours that we have been on WebEx this morning or yesterday, that you have spent years with the mission, the ambition, the plans, all of the time, in addition to your own research and teaching, to create this community. And I am, at the risk of sounding condescending, very proud of both of you for making communities tighter, because that is something that neither platforms nor AI are good at. That is a human trait, and both of you have done it spectacularly.
So we will just not add anything and say thank you.
You are welcome.
So thank you to you, Ted. Thank you to everybody for being here. And again, for those who will be with us tomorrow, we see directly in LECO quite early in the morning. So thank you. And next year we will have Ted as well, I'm sure. Bye-bye, everybody.
Ciao.